A black-owned cannabis dispensary is open in Chicago, but nearly 200 other shops that won license to operate have yet to open their doors. Amanda Vinicky joined us now with a look at whether Illinois is following through on promises to use legal marijuana to lift communities and people who were previously punished by anti-pot laws. Amanda.
Well, Paris, it has been nearly 3 years since Illinois legalized marijuana, and only just now are black and brown-owned businesses opening, like Ivy Hall in Bucktown. Co-owner Nigel Danbridge says being the first social equity cannabis dispensary to open in Illinois is momentous. History in the making.
I am living proof of Illinois making good on its promise to carve out a more equitable cannabis landscape for generations to come. Yet again, Illinois is out ahead of the pack.
Governor J.B. Pritzker says Ivy Hall is evidence of Illinois following through on its pledge of using the state's authority to prioritize helping those previously persecuted in the war on drugs.
As we've promised from day one, Illinois has the most accessible and equitable cannabis industry in the nation, even with its hiccups or legal obstacles. And as the first of 192 social equity licensees to launch, Ivy Hall is paving the way for even more success in this new industry.
Except Ambrose Jackson doesn't think that's how it will go. He also won a state social equity license to open a dispensary, but he expects it won't open until next summer. Jackson says there's stratification among the 192 social equity licensees. The couple that are opening likely already had a lot of capital and connections, he says. Then there's a tier of businesses like his. He says with owners that have the know-how but are having to go slower because after years of delays, they don't have the cash. Then come those he predicts will never open.
What I see is that there's a number of reasons why the majority of license winners are not going to become operational, and it's disingenuous for the state or the governor to herald success based off of who initially won these licenses without thinking about what's being done to make sure that they actually stand them up and are successful and sustainable businesses.
I asked the governor today whether he expects all of the groups that won those coveted and expensive social equity licenses to open.
I'm hopeful that that's the case, and we're certainly doing everything that we can, providing loans to folks who need them. They're forgivable loans, making sure that we're helping them through the process as best we can. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see nearly all. I mean, I know small businesses are very hard to start.
Now, the main reason that these licenses have been tied up for years is because of lawsuits. Now, regardless of the cause, though, Jackson says the wait caused huge financial harm to social equity entrepreneurs. In that time, some lost partners, real estate, and investors that instead went to other businesses in other states. With COVID, higher interest rates leading to higher borrowing costs and stock shares in pot companies falling, the market, he says, is much different than it was back in 2020.
100%, the state has not followed through on its pledge or promise as it relates to social equity in this industry.
Jackson says the state could be doing more to help. For example, allowing those that won craft grow licenses to be allowed to open larger cultivation centers, because he says it's a challenge to secure funding for the relatively small space allowed by law. Another option, removing a requirement that cultivation centers be distanced far apart, and that way they could work together and lower overhead. But he says those requests to state lawmakers have fallen on deaf ears.
However, that's been blocked. The legislature has decided time and time again over the last couple of years through veto sessions and lame duck sessions and legislative sessions that they are not going to move on any legislation that helps social equity license winners get up and running and become successful.
The governor today said that he will work with the General Assembly on that cultivation issue. But again, that has been a request for many months and hasn't advanced at all. The state did last month make available nearly $9 million in forgivable loans to help social equity businesses that are having trouble getting off the ground.
All right, Amanda, what's next then?
Well, Paris, a new legislature is going to be seated in January, and so we'll be watching to see whether this is a priority for them. Another 55 conditional social equity licenses are yet to be awarded. reported, officials today offered no firm timeline for when that will happen. Some businesses are pressing for Illinois to do other things, like allowing for the delivery of marijuana, like you'd get a pizza delivered to your door. The governor today signaled an openness to that idea, but he did not outright embrace it as a priority.
All right.